Hi guys, this is Andrew Holmes from Chicago RIA, and I wanted everybody to meet Antonio Hernandez from Chicago Funding. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard the buzz about Chicago Funding, about the number of transactions that they're doing in our marketplace. And so I wanted to invite Antonio personally today to talk about what exactly Chicago Funding is, how did it come about, and specifically talk about, I wanted him to talk about kind of the playbook that they have, which I think is a phenomenal idea for real estate investors. So Antonio, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew, for the introduction, and
Definitely.
I'm excited to be here because there is a lot of things that they're coming in the market.
Mhm.
So this is the new Chicago Funding.
So I know initially when we had talked, right, we said, there needs to be a product when you were kind of coming up with this idea, and we're talking about it, which is a product which is for investors, and yet it's put together by investors. Because a lot of times bankers think about it from their perspective, which is finance. Right?
Exactly, yeah.
But investors want a product where it's investor friendly, right?
Exactly, and I mean, me being a master's student and then going through the process to find money, this new idea is that, I understand the side of the investor, and then we wanted to bring something that it can help them, take them to the next level.
Mm-hmm. So it was basically, it's a product which was kind of developed working with a lot of different lenders, right?
Yes.
So typically people are looking for, what types of fundings are typically real estate investor looking for?
A lot of people's looking for these funds for flips, for rentals, for properties that are already paid off, and they want to get some money out, for lines of credit.
So they're looking for, typically most people think about real estate funding, they think about, man, I'm going to do a bunch of flips. I need money to buy the property, I need money to rehab the property. So that's one type of funding.
That's one of the top,
Right, that's the big ones.
That's the
right?
big one. Right.
The second one is for rentals. Right, a lot of people are looking for funding for, hey, I want to acquire the property, right? And then it's going to require some work, so there's going to be some rehab on it, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, there is a lot of people doing flips, and there's a lot of people trying to do rentals. But if they don't know that there is a product out there that exists that you can buy the property, rehab, rent it, and refinance. A lot of people think that is the old days when you still, you need to go full debt.
Yeah.
A lot of these loans are based, asset based. So if the property is cash flowing, they'll give you a loan.
Right. So if the property cash flows, you can get the loan all day long.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
So, and then the third thing, which is kind of an advanced technique, which is for those people who are wholesalers out there. Right. A lot of times wholesalers don't understand that there's transactional funding that's available.
Yes,
right, which is that you're doing a wholesale deal, and it's a great deal, and it at your gut, but you need to be able to close it so that the second person can buy the property. Sometimes you can't do simultaneous close. Sometimes you can't do double closes, and sometimes at double closes you may need, in certain cases, transactional funding. A perfect example is somebody who's making a $30,000, $40,000
Exactly.
spread. Right? They don't want the seller to find out that there's a $30,000 or $40,000 spread in that deal. And in that case, you need transactional funding.
Yeah, that's
so the point of Chicago Funding was to bring it all together.
Yes, and that was the idea to show them that is more to it,
Choices.
More choices, because people think that it's only the choice of paying cash,
Right.
or get somebody or get a partner or anything else. But there is a lot of money out there to be lent. And there is people, there is these lenders who, they want the deals, especially if the deal is good.
Right. And, and the other thing was what I really liked when you kind of presented this idea, which was your real estate funding playbook, right? Because even in Mastery, we had so many people that will do a lot of transactions,
Yes.
right? They do 2, 3, 4 transactions, and now they run out of money. Right? And you go, well, why did you pay cash for these? They're like, well, that's all I had to do. I'm like, oh my God, you just went through Mastery, man. You can't be paying cash. Now, sometimes, yes,
Sometimes
but not all the time. It doesn't make sense, right, to pay cash all the time. And so you came up with this idea, which was your funding playbook, which is really an idea from football. Right? Because there's so many different things you can do in real estate. But I think a lot of times what happens is, for investors, when it comes to money, they can find a deal. but when it comes to money, they don't know what to do, right? And talk about that, the difference between, a lot of times people think that they're being funded. It's not about them being funded,
Exactly.
it's their deal being funded, right?
Yes.
So how does that relate to deal structuring?
Well, the first idea that come out, with the real estate funding playbook is that everybody is in a different stage of their life and financially.
Right.
There's people who had, let's say 50,000,
Mhm.
100,000, and that money can be leveraged, in another way with, lines of credits, trying to use 10%, 20%. So the idea is actually help them to structure the deal where it makes sense, and how can they go from, let's say, one property to 5, 10 properties
Right.
in a short time using other people's money.
So a lot of times people understand, the concept where they might have 10,000, 15,000, right? Or they might not have any of their own money,
Okay.
right? In your case, you had a little bit of money, but you didn't want to put up your own money because you're like, hey, this is all the savings I have, right?
Exactly.
So you had a partner that put in 15,000 on your first deal,
Yes.
and then the rest of it, you kind of arranged that with a bunch of lenders, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I mean, just so people think, understand that it's not about how much money do you have, it's about how you structure the deal, so that way, you can do more transactions.
I'm glad you said that. So it's not about how much money you have, it's about how do you structure the deal. Like
Exactly.
in your case, you started with no money of your own.
Yes.
I mean, you had some savings, but you didn't put it in the deal. You
Exactly.
found the deal, you partnered with somebody who put in 15%. The rest of it came from the lenders that you have.
Yes.
Right? You did your first deal, made a profit. Then the second one, you repeated the same process.
Exactly.
Now you've done 15, 18 of those transactions, and you're like, oh my God, I can provide a similar thing for all these other investors.
Yeah, and it's how it started at the beginning, because I was looking for money for myself, and then I found out that there is, other lenders who want to lend money, and then I started helping some of the master's students. But this is beyond that, because now there is some people who is actually doing it, and they say, well, I have 2 properties, but I want to have 10. Okay, let's sit down and structure your finances the way that you can
Grow.
grow.
So a perfect example, we were talking about, who was the person from Master we were talking about today? Ersali, right?
Yeah.
Perfect example. Experienced investor, right? Happens to be a real estate agent on top of that.
Yes.
Good agent, good investor, has done flips.
Yes.
Has 2, 3 properties that are paid for. And now she's like, oh my God, I'm out of money. I ran out of money. I'm like, Araceli, why did you pay for properties in cash to begin with? You didn't have to. Now, if you have to, it's different. But in this case, she didn't have to, but she was just confused. Right?
Exactly.
And so a great solution that you provided, you're like, okay, let's refinance a couple of the properties, right? So now she'll have some of her cash back, in fact, most of her cash
Most of
back
her cash.
in her pocket. And now instead of going, and the traditional way is, well, you go buy another 2 or 3 and then refinance again. Instead, what you said is, she'll have about 200,000, right? Against the 200,000, she can get $1 million in line, right? She gets $1 million line, then buys properties with the $1 million, and then refinances that line.
Exactly.
Right? And now suddenly she goes from 2 properties to 15, 16, 17 properties, boom, in a matter of a year.
Yeah, and the other thing is, a lot of the new investors, they don't think of something else. I'm here to kind of provide, hey, I've been doing this without money, so I have nothing to lose, but I can show you how you can, free up some of the money, get a line of credit. Now you can get 2, 3, 4 properties, just putting 10, 15% down,
Right.
and get all the money for the rehab.
Right.
And that way you're gonna grow even better, even faster than what you have done. But that's an idea, and we need to sit down and see where they, right now, what's
Where
the
they're at.
position, where
Right,
they're
right.
at.
And see, I think a lot of times what happens is, for real estate investors, they're intimidated to go to a lender, and the lender is going to say, well, no, because if it doesn't fit the exact product that the lender has, they're just going to say no.
Yes.
They're not going to say, hey, listen, we can't do it this way, we can do it this way. We can't do it this way, there's another lender in the marketplace that you can go to, right? And talking about lenders, I know there's a bunch of different types of financing,
course.
right? So a lot of people know somebody that, at least at Chicago RIA, we work closely with, happens to be Juan from Homebridge, right? And his entire team, from Karen to Greg to all those guys that we work with all the time.
Sure.
But what I said to a lot of people is that I'm like, hey, first sit down with Antonio, because this is a service that is free, right? And map out your game plan. Doesn't cost you anything, right?
Yeah.
And you've been to a place where you didn't have a lot of cash, right? You went through the time from doing good to suddenly in 2008 and 9 to be like, oh my God, what happened to the real estate market?
Yes.
To again having to recover, right? So I think a lot of times real estate new investors or even seasoned investors will feel comfortable sitting down with you and saying, okay, this is where I'm at. Now, based on this, I want to go to $1 million in portfolio, $2 million in portfolio. How do I set up a game plan? What are the playbooks? What are the plays in my playbook? And then how do I modify them to be able to take advantage of all these different products? Because if we show this list to somebody, right? You can do residential loans with flips, commercial loans, acquisition loans, refinances, line of credit. People are like, what the heck is this, man? This might as well be talking in Latin or another language. But
that's right.
You can demystify this for them, correct?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do with people that I sit down. That sometimes they have other properties, sometimes they have properties that have been paid cash, and say, well, I don't know what to do. But the thing is, they don't know that is lenders that they can do cash out just based on the property value.
Right.
Nothing. I mean,
nothing special.
Special.
Right. So for those people that are kind of be like, oh my God, I want to learn this, right? Or I want to use Chicago funding to be able to build my business, right? How do they reach you?
Well, my number is right here, 630-640-9060.
Okay.
In my email, Antonio Chicago Funding. But the idea is to just, take them to the next level.
Right.
Even with the people in Mastery, the old Mastery, the new Mastery, is to...
Or people who come to Chicago RIA,
exactly.
Or who may not even come to Chicago RIA,
exactly.
right? Maybe people who are just interested in expanding their business. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's it's a service.
It's a service, and the thing is, there is a lot of lenders out there. They can go in Google and find 50, 100 lenders, but they don't know what they do. Right. And they don't know the guidelines. I've been through all this process already, that I can be, a big help for them. And like I say, we're trying to help them and trying to grow to the next level.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. I think it's a phenomenal service. And the reason I like the whole Chicago funding idea is a one-stop shop, right?
Exactly.
Even if the right thing for you to do. I mean, you have had people who came to you that were great candidates for refinances going to Homebridge, right?
Exactly,
Going
yes.
to Juan at Homebridge and his team, and you said, hey, no, don't use this playbook first. First, go get your 2-3 properties done from Homebridge, then come back to me. Or you go do your rentals at Homebridge, and at the same time, you can do 2 or 3 flips or more rentals with you,
yeah,
correct?
Exactly. And like I say, it's a misconception out there. A lot of people, they don't know that there is money available,
right.
And they don't need to have a W-2 or a 1099. It's based on the properties.
But I think a lot of times the process is confusing,
yes.
right? And people just don't know that there's help available, right? That there is, and this is my challenge to anybody. Show me a good deal. Good deal. It can't be just, a deal that you think is good. But a good deal by our standards, and I guarantee you, we can show you a funding source, a way to make this deal happen. You might have to partner a little bit, you might have to borrow funds, but guys, in today's market especially, every deal is fundable as long as the numbers make sense.
Exactly.
So Antonio, congratulations on the new venture, and thank you very much and sharing
Andrew.
the information with us.
Yeah. No.